All right, I'm back and I'm going to forge ahead here with scene one. Okay, so thanks for bearing with me again. You should have your annotation pen and your book. And I'm trying to post the videos in a way that's, I hope, clear. So I did use Edpuzzle for the one that I posted for you for Thursday, January 6th for first thing in the morning. I'm hoping that'll work, and it's a way that like I can get some response from you. I didn't make a lot of questions, but at least something sort of embedded. But let me know if that doesn't work, and I will desist. Anyway, it's Thursday. I'll be back Tuesday. Not a ton more of this. All right. So up until now, though, you should have watched the welcome back video. That was Tuesday. The 2 videos for Wednesday, the Lear intro with the characters and the beginning of Act 1. And then today I've posted this is the same video with Edpuzzle Lear Act 1, right? Same part. I just reposted it in YouTube in case the audio quality wasn't good enough in the Edpuzzle version. So 1 video so far for today, plus this one makes 2, okay? So here we go. And I'm going to break this up into smaller things. Okay, so Lear has just flown off the handle at Cordelia, right? Because she has refused to sort of play his game of the how much do you love me game. And when he says, be as well neighbored, pitied, and relieved as thou my sometime daughter, sometime here means, oh, sorry, I'm on page 15. Sometime means former. Like, in other words, like he's disowning her. Kent, and if you recall, so Kent is, here we go. Kent is one of his sort of his entourage, right? The Earl of Gloucester is one of his allies. The Fool, of course, is a very close, like, personal advisor, assistant, whatever. And then the Earl of Kent is another of these people who are supporters of Lear. All right. So Kent tries to intervene. Come not between the dragon and his wrath. Now, this is a really good example of when I ask you to think about the significance of a metaphor. He's comparing himself to a dragon, right? Wrath is anger. So don't come between the dragon and his anger. He's calling himself a dragon, right? So think about what that suggests about his self-image as, I said, this sort of mythic a figure, and very, right, fierce, dangerous. And the way Lear perceives of himself and his identity, the way he wants to be, is really, really important. Okay. I loved her most and thought to set my rest on her kind nursery. Notice how he uses I here. It's very personal, right? That's not the royal we. That's him as a person. Okay. And he tells Cordelia to get out of his sight. And I mentioned before that eyesight, was one of the things that might get lost in this way. So that idea of sight, whether it's literal or figurative, is really important. And if I were a character in a play, I wouldn't, especially a tragedy, I wouldn't tell someone to get out of my sight, someone I love very much. So we'll see when he may get to see her again, right? Okay, he still has to get her married off. He's going to divide up between Cornwall and Albany. He's going to divide up the 3 parts of England and just make it 2. Okay. Let pride, which she calls plainness, marry her. He's talking about Cordelia. Let her get married to pride. Plainness here is honesty. And the idea of being able to be honest, speaking truth to power, is really important in this play. Okay. He's got a plan. Our self means myself, him, and his retinue. By monthly course with reservation of 100 nights, by you to be sustained. He's talking to Cornwall and Albany, right? The husbands of his 2 other daughters. And he's going to make his abode with his 2 other daughters on alternating months with, just 100 nights, right? Not a lot, yeah? Okay, so can you imagine, there's like the sort of stereotype of having the, an in-law come stay with you. And, how about they bring 100 nights too? Yeah, no biggie. Okay, the only thing we're going to keep the name and the addition to it king. So he still wants to be called king, and he still wants to have all of the sort of pomp and circumstance of being a king, right? So he wants to keep the status. He wants to keep the title. The sway, revenue, execution of the rest, beloved sons, be yours. So you get to do all the work, right? But I still get to be called king. And then this is going to lead us to this idea of what it is to be, let's say, a king. Like, is it the title, right? What is it? Is it the property which he just gave away? What is power? What does it mean to be a king? All right. Kent insists, he tries to intervene, right? And he declares how much he's loved Lear. Lear is now using this idea of himself as a sort of archer, right? And he's shooting his arrow. The bow is bent and drawn, made from the shaft is like the arrow. Don't get between me and my target. And can't let it fall. Rather, the fork invade the region of my heart. Like, he's like, you hit me, okay? And then this wonderful line, which I've quoted in many other contexts: be Kent unmannerly when Lear is mad. In other words, Kent must be unmannerly if Lear is going to act mad. And this is the first use of that word mad in connection with Lear. And it's very important. If you ask somebody who didn't have a lot of knowledge of the play, oh, King Lear, what's that play? Oh, it's this old king and he goes mad. And this, of course, idea of madness is a very, very, very vague, certainly has no relation to our modern understanding of mental health issues. And what does it really mean? Being detached from some idea of, reality, losing sight of who one is, loss of identity. What is this madness? We're going to have to kind of roll with this very general kind of crude term, mad. You'll also notice here, this is worth just the way the text works. Characters often talk about themselves using their name. So I might say, Miss Hunter should be concise when she's making a video, right? So when he says be Kent, he means Kent should be unmannerly, and he's talking about himself using his own name. What would you do? And notice this thou is the intimate. So this is where he's being unmannerly. Speaking to the king using thou, which is the intimate address, as opposed to you. And he calls him an old man. Think, right, that duty shall have dread to speak when power to flattery bows. Lear is bowing to flattery. To plainness, to honesty, honor is bound when majesty falls to folly. Folly is foolishness, right? So he's saying that the king, that Lear is a victim of foolishness, and it is Kent's duty to speak to him. And you could play this scene in different ways, but any way you cut it, what Kent is doing is very risky. And he's really putting himself out there, right? And he says literally, I bet my life, answer my life, my judgment. youngest daughter does not love the least, right? And so he's sort of vouching for Cordelia here and putting himself out there. Lear threatens Kent with his life, right? And then, just as he did with Cordelia, orders Kent out of his sight. Kent, again, see better, Lear, and let me still remain the true blank of your eye. Like, let me be the target of this. But this idea of sight, again, that Lear is not seeing is so important. And Kent pushes it even further. Lear then goes off on him, right? And he banishes him. Okay? He banishes him from his presence, and they give him 5 days to get ready, and then on the 6th, out of the kingdom. Okay? Away by Jupiter, this shall not be revoked. So again, this idea of firmness, constancy, being unyielding, inflexible, if you will. Okay? Kent obeys, he leaves with his good wishes for Cordelia. All right, and that's where I'm going to stop this one, because then we turn to this scene, this sort of really, again, in modern context, very strange scene of trying to figure out, well, now who's going to marry Cordelia before I, kick her out of the kingdom? Still got to take care of basic business, right? Okay. Getting the daughters married off was a really, really, really big deal in the patriarchy, this firm. All right, I'm going to pause this recording. I hope. We'll see. Where's my little cam? I think if I reduce this, that'd be good. There it is.